Oh, hey, how's it going? Happy Friday. Thanks for starting your weekend off right with Nerdy by Nature. While you're listening, feel free to crack open a craft beer. Sit back, relax, have some fun. Did you hear about our website? LetUsGetNerdy.com. There's show notes, fun facts, links, visuals, everything you need from today's show so you too can enjoy the episode. In case you missed anything, it's all there. All of your senses will be happy again. While you're there, feel free to subscribe via the web, Android, or iOS, whichever your heart desires. Feel free to continue the conversation on social media. After the show, beginning, whatever, hashtag, have some fun. Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Search us up. Let us get nerdy. It's that simple. All right, we stretched our thumbs, got our controllers and dice ready, got our beakers out. Let's get to it.
Yo, this is dirty.
The world's most complicated currency here on Nerdy by Nature. You're welcome. It's not a dollar, it's not a penny, it's not what we talk about usually, but it is cryptocurrency today on Nerdy by Nature. Here, Chris, you've joined us to talk about wrapping your head around this currency.
Ching ching.
Good luck.
Yeah.
The man who invented Jeopardy, Nathan, is here to grace us with his presence. Bitcoin is your number one currency.
I wish. It's one of those things where it's a classic story of, I wish I got into it when it first came out because then I'd be rich and I would be like, haha, I'm rich.
And then he'd have a podcast studio for us in his guest room.
Yeah,
house.
pretty much.
That'd be nice. Myself, Elijah, you may know me from other podcasts such as Nerdy by Nature or this one. Happy Friday, talking about currency here on Nerdy by Nature. Chris with this delicious shirt. Once again, you ready to make some cash?
Ching ching.
Talk about it. You're going to be doing some farming, but not as you would with goats or
Mining,
cattle.
farming. Yeah.
That's good. Digital farming. Nathan's here.
Just to be disagreeable, I don't know if Bitcoin would have an actual ching ching sound or if it'd be more electronic, like bleep bloop or something like that.
Wow. The IQ comes through once again. Welcome, Nathan.
Wow.
Thanks
Yeah.
for coming.
What's the sound of a couple of electrons rubbing against each other? We don't know.
I don't know. It's like my hair is sticking on end for some reason.
Yeah.
Because Science North and Sudbury and figured out. Who knows?
Yeah, if you're ever in Ontario, Canada, go up to Sudbury, Science North. It's a great place.
And you can
World's
learn about.
largest nickel.
You may or may not be able to learn about Bitcoin currency there and cryptocurrency. I'm not sure.
Well, you can learn about traditional mining, if not Bitcoin mining, that's for sure.
Well, nice playing words. Appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Just explaining why you're right every day. That's good. Myself, Elijah, I'm here to learn about how I can make a buck with some GPUs and more. It'll be good. Cryptocurrency is here to stay. 2008, a gentleman decided it'd be a good idea with the crash of the market, get something more stable because the dollar and many other currencies just dropped like flies. So why not have a digital currency that's tamper-proof, theft-proof, and stable for years to come?
I don't know about stable because it definitely has experienced a lot of volatility like any currency speculation does.
Yeah.
But also, we're not 100% sure man, woman, group of people, robot, machine sent from the future because no one has been positively identified as the writer of that quintessential paper and the origins of Bitcoin.
Wikipedia says Satoshi Nakamoto.
Yeah, we have a
2008.
name, but no one's ever met, seen.
It could be like Edison or Nikola Tesla. We don't know yet. So
Yeah.
I guess Satoshi could be like the Edison of Bitcoin. We don't know yet.
It could be a nom de plume, a pseudonym, right? Because
fair. Who would want to be the creator?
We haven't. Well, a lot of people would be, but there's no like definitive identification of this is an actual person and we have met him and he has been interviewed or whatever.
The god or goddess of Bitcoin has not yet been identified.
Revealed.
Well, however way, I mean, his paper showed up in 2008. In 2009, the code was released.
Yeah, and it rocked the world.
And the electronic cash peer-to-peer system is born.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you have blockchain currencies that are super complicated.
Just to really throw this wrench in the works, the funny thing about Bitcoin is especially the speculative nature of the currency, and fortunes and billions have been made from this currency. Very capitalistic thing to do, but Bitcoin itself is very socialist, because all changes to Bitcoin and how they're doing it, the program, things like that, have to be done basically with the consensus of the network of the miners and the customers with their wallets actually who own the Bitcoins. So essentially it's a interesting mix of capitalist values and the pursuit of the almighty Bitcoin, and this kind of social idea of everybody's got a stake and a say and a voice in how this evolves.
Almost like open source software in a little bit
Essentially.
without the risk, perhaps. Well, risk of security, but risk in the currency. Because now we're at, did you say Bitcoin is at something like 5,000?
About 5,000 US, yeah.
Not bad. So we're not talking about Apple or Google, who are in traditional markets, who have something like $1,000+ per share. This is one Bitcoin equals 5,000 plus US dollars.
Right.
So I could afford something like 0.0063 Bitcoin.
Which is the nice thing about Bitcoin, because it can be...
It's digital, super fractionalized.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can do fractions of it. Yeah.
Rounding errors would be a killer, though, that's for sure.
I mean, at one point you didn't have
5,000,
to.
yes.
Like when this thing came out in 2009 or so, it was worth pennies.
Yeah.
And then people got 10, 20, even 100 Bitcoin. Now they're sitting on a pile of Scrooge McDuck coins.
Yeah, which, is only good if you still have them. Chris was saying before we hit the record button about stories of people, throwing out their computer with their software wallet on it, and then having to go, dig through the landfill hoping to find their computer, because suddenly that computer's hard drive is worth millions.
Imagine being at the recycling plant and having just a strain of knowledge about computers and Bitcoin at that time. Yeah. You'd clean up.
Yeah.
You threw it away.
Yeah.
It's mine.
Yeah.
It'd be like the roll up of the rim fiasco where people are fighting over computers and trying to claim them. It's in the trash.
Yeah.
Judge's not going to call that one.
It's a shame.
So that's kind of leads us into
crazy.
to point one, though, about Bitcoins. So say you're at home and you want to start, accepting and giving Bitcoins, buying, selling, trading Bitcoins.
Sure.
How do you do that? Well, the first thing you do is you need a Bitcoin wallet.
Computer?
Not necessarily, because Bitcoin wallets can be software-based, hardware-based, app-based, like on your phone. You can even get Bitcoin wallets that you can essentially print out a QR code, and they call it like a paper wallet. Stick that QR code in your wallet if you wanted, and then suddenly you've got access to your Bitcoins wherever you go.
So that's the code in the QR.
Yeah. And so, because essentially, if you lose access to your wallet, which has your personal security key, then you are hosed, because it's not like that's something that's easily recoverable.
Right, or there's no Touch ID scan to get through. It's just whoever has a phone is smart enough to figure it out. Oh, that's what that is. Poof, there's my cash. It's gone.
Yeah, well, generally there's, two-part security, but the thing is that your wallet will have your key, and so without your key, unless you've got like an eidetic memory and can memorize
long
that
codes.
sort of thing. Yeah. So you need your wallet, and then depending on what you want to do from there, you need to basically use an exchange, and the exchanges are kind of like the internet clearinghouses of currency. Do a lot of the transactions in terms of the buying and selling and the actual transferring of Bitcoins.
For those not interested or not deep diving into investing, then it's not like it's the Toronto or New York Stock Exchange. It's the crypto exchanges.
Yeah. Essentially, cryptocurrencies for the most part are kind of still on the fringes and still kind of viewed skeptically, because they can be quite volatile based on just like any other commodity or currency, right? Like if you've got a lot of people pumping a lot of money and demand into the system, then the price can shoot up. Essentially, people are talking about Bitcoin as being the next reserve currency, after gold, because of the fact that
Wow.
it's easily convertible. It's international, and borders don't really matter. But
Good
the
point.
thing is there's a certain amount of pushback because of the prevalence of Bitcoin and used money laundering and other allegations of being popular with criminal organizations.
I think
Anonymous, yeah.
The worry might be if, say, the money market ends up failing or falling, then your cash is worthless. So if you put your money into Bitcoin, maybe it's safe like a mattress.
But if there's no
International mattress.
if there's no desire, there's no need, there's no want for this currency, then the value tanks.
Well,
like anything else.
Its value is based on what people want it to be. The users.
Just like anything else. So
Okay,
I think Elijah's right. Like in terms of with a currency, it's kind of like two things. One is desire. Like why does gold still kind of hold its value over time is because people want to gold. They something difficult happens in the world and they're like, oh, put my money into gold because the US dollar's tanking or somebody did something or whatever. So as long as people are desiring Bitcoin, then there's going to be some value there. But the other way currencies have a lot of value is usage, right? And so that's where it's like it has to become something ubiquitous with the environment where you can just go to McDonald's and buy your Big Mac with Bitcoin, right? And like basically when it becomes accepted everywhere, then it becomes even more valuable because it becomes an exchange currency and not just, something that people are using as a rainy day investment or a speculative investment.
Well, see, if it just stayed as Bitcoin, then that would be one thing. But there's 900 other cryptocurrencies available?
Well, I think part of that is it's kind of like an internet gold rush, right? Like if you imagine, there's a lot of parallels with the real world gold rushes where, people would discover, there's gold in them there hills. Everyone will rush to that area for a few years, dig up everything they can. And then basically when people have dug up everything they could or the big mines have bought up everything, then people move on to the next area. Oh, I heard a couple states over or up in Canada, there's gold in them there hills. Everyone runs off to the next thing. So because
gold rush in Alaska.
Yeah. And so because of the way that Bitcoin has been designed, which is that there's only going to be X number of Bitcoins in circulation ever, it's kind of like an inverse relationship with the number of coins that are discovered and added into circulation. Like every so often, there's a mathematical formula, which I cannot get into here without using Cribb's notes. But essentially, over time, as more and more blocks are added to the chain, the number of coins that are discovered by the miners decreases. And it basically goes in half. And so...
almost like a split?
Not necessarily. It's more just a case of the same amount of work, but suddenly you're digging up less gold. It's just think about, use the gold mine analogy. There's only so much gold in that mine. As you dig up the easy spots, then you have to go and find the harder spots where there's less gold. Right. So you might work an 8-hour day, but you're not going to find as much as you did before because you're now having to find all the little nooks and crannies and the little offshoots. The veins aren't as rich as they once were. So basically, as the mining becomes not more difficult, I mean, the difficulty is supposed to be kind of kept the same, but the reward kind of diminishes. Then people are encouraged to start speculating on other cryptocurrencies because, more bang for your buck, right? Because as the currency is newer, then perhaps you're going to be discovering more coins. And perhaps if the currency takes off, if those coins increase in value, then suddenly, you're rich, right? But again, when there's 900 cryptocurrencies and counting, if the cryptocurrency never becomes valuable, then you're just sitting on a pile of fool's gold, essentially.
Digital fool's gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the market is flooded, really.
Oh, absolutely.
And government hasn't
100%.
even rushed to popularity yet. Like the governments are saying, no, we don't want to be part of this yet. They're kind of shying away and just being reserved. And obviously there's a lot of money with the Bank of Canada or the U.S. Federal Reserve and others there's a lot invested where they can print money and have fun. And now there's this digital currency that can just be
Well, it can't
anywhere.
be traced.
Right. It can't be traced, and there's
People can be paid in this currency and not have to pay taxes.
and there's a limited amount. So once that goes, then you just go on to a different currency, I suppose. But I guess with that trade-off, there's a little bit of the anonymity that you said. You can do whatever you want with it, and then you can perhaps jump around to currencies and have some options without having to be regulated.
Well, see, and that's an interesting conundrum that eventually comes into play is what does happen when all the bitcoins have been mined, because you're certainly going to have a set number of coins in circulation, but how is that really any different than any other currency, right? Like the Bank of Canada has X number of dollars in circulation, and that's a known quantity, right? And obviously the one difference is with Bitcoin, you can't just issue more coins. You essentially have to have a fork and make like almost a whole new currency, whereas the Bank of Canada can just print more money and just add more money into circulation. So that is
less effort.
That is a big difference, but I guess it goes into the stability thing, right? Because if you start printing money, then you start having to deal with inflation, and suddenly your money's worth a lot less, right? And then you run into issues like Venezuela and stuff, where essentially your currency becomes devalued so much that it's kind of worthless. Whereas because of the fact that there is a fixed number of bitcoins, the worst thing that might happen is the value just keeps ratcheting up. $25,000, $50,000 a coin. But does that really matter, because you can just deal with fractions? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as far as it goes, it's not like necessarily anyone's losing. It's just a case of, it's like deflation, where I'm buying that hamburger with 1/1,000,000th of a Bitcoin as opposed to 1/10,000th of a Bitcoin. Right? I'm still buying a hamburger. I still have the same amount in my
just have to buy
wallet.
I just use 1/10,000th of a Bitcoin to buy the Big Mac, for lack of better.
Yeah.
Or Joe's pepper at the farm.
Yeah.
So as more and more places start accepting Bitcoin, then I guess we'll see who the winner is.
And that, I guess it would just say it would be, I don't know what the currency was. There's no standard. So how do you say to somebody it's worth this many Bitcoin? I guess you'd have to have screens on there saying this is what it'd be in different currencies for the value of the goods.
Well, I would imagine they would compare the value of the good to whatever,
To their national currency, which is what they currently do
and then
already, right?
do the conversion to it.
I see. So you could pay with whatever, like you can take whatever currency you want to the retailer or the store and say, I like to buy this. Okay, well, it does it all for you in the app.
Yeah.
Got it. So you don't necessarily have to say, my food is worth 1/10,000th of a Bitcoin, because it's not always the norm. If there's 900 coins out there, you never know what someone's going to buy with.
Well, that becomes the other issue,
It's a
right?
lot of math.
Like as a retailer, I'm not going to support 900 coins because that's ridiculous, right? Like
a little bit.
Just even if you think that there's one wallet, say there's a universal wallet that can store all my coins, that's still a lot of different coins to keep track of, let alone the fact that some of these coins could become worthless because they could crash,
Sure.
And so it's just one of those things that really I think you basically see support for like the top 5 or 6 guys, like
I guess same
Ethereum and
with paper
what are
money
some
now.
of the other ones.
Yeah. So it makes sense. You will pick the top ones and support those.
Well,
Litecoin,
okay, just
Zcash.
yeah.
like everybody goes and buys. Everybody knows U.S. funds, for example.
Just to
in
blow your
States.
mind, there's way more Bitcoins. Well, not Bitcoins, I shouldn't say. Way more cryptocurrencies than there are countries in the world. So that means there are more imaginary electronic currencies than there are actual real currencies by like a factor.
Yeah, that did it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And this is brand new. Well, 2008-ish,
Yeah.
but that's in form of currency, that's pretty babyish, pretty
yeah.
new.
So, like, in theory, what should be happening with 900 currencies is it should drive the Bitcoin down, but instead it's done the opposite.
For some, it almost seems like it's a popularity contest. Whatever people flood to and say this is going to take off, people dump their money into it, and then it takes off.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And
Like
that's it.
that's a certain amount of it, but that's like any kind of investment, right? Or any kind of commodity supply and
So
demand.
is this like kind of a race between, say, VHS and Beta? Is this what this is going to be?
Slightly.
It's possible. Basically, I think one of the biggest determining factors will be if any government actually steps in. Like if anybody, like say the UN officially recognizes a cryptocurrency or something like that,
It'll skyrocket.
or it gets adopted by the major banks or something like that, right? Like any kind of next level of support to kind of broaden the appeal or the user base of a cryptocurrency will definitely have an effect on its popularity and its price.
For sure. And,
Yeah, if
and
a
the
bank
stability,
got on that.
banking, government gets involved, and then a whole bunch of nonsense. Once that paperwork and red tape gets out of the way, then it'll probably level out and go up again.
Yeah, because it's hard to say if the world even has room for a bunch. Like what is the number of cryptocurrencies the world can support? Like I don't know, because I mean you could argue that with all the countries and each country has their currency. Well, we can certainly with the markets support like that much currency exchange. So maybe we can support a couple hundred coins, but it's kind of like what is the point? Like it's funny. It's very similar to all the streaming services. When is too many streaming services out there? You know what I mean? Like
Everybody's going to compete. Everybody's going to be at the level, but eventually somebody's going to get pushed out.
yeah, like who's going to have their Hulu, their HBO Go, their Netflix, their Amazon Prime, and this and that and the other thing? Like who's going to have half a dozen streaming services, and who's going to have half a dozen cryptocurrencies other than the miners who are hoping to strike it rich with one of these currencies becoming mainstream, right? Like
that's it.
those are the people that are invested in these currencies right now, is because they're hoping that this little dinky currency goes on hot streak and then suddenly their 1,000 coins are worth $10 million, $100 million, right?
Perhaps it'll be a cable company who'll buy up all these streaming services and then one day aggregate them together.
So maybe one day somebody will buy up all these cryptocurrencies and aggregate them together.
Possible. Warren Buffett, perhaps. He has a few bucks.
See, the thing is that's the interesting nature of cryptocurrencies, is because they're kind of like an ecosystem, right? And so part of the ecosystem is the people with their wallets using their currency, but then the other part of the ecosystem are the worker bees, the miners. Because miners do two things that are vitally important for the success of any current cryptocurrency. One is they discover new coins and add them into the system, and that's kind of designed as a reward. Because the other thing they do is the actual grunt work, all the transactions. So I give you some cryptocurrency, like say 5 Bitcoins, Elijah.
Okay.
Basically,
Thank
I'm
you.
creating a transaction
Nice.
to add to the blockchain, which is the record of all transactions of the cryptocurrency. And we need a miner to actually add that to a block. And the way they do that is by doing basically solving a really complicated math problem and then kind of sharing their solution with all the other miners, so everyone else can say, yep, that's correct, that you're not fabricating or faking your work or trying to duplicate a transaction or do any kind of shenanigans.
Is that the call?
Basically the whole mining community keeps all the other miners on track, but they're also the ones trying to solve these problems, and these problems are getting more and more complicated, so you technically need more and more computational power just to solve the problems. And if the number of miners drop, the amount of processing power drops, then you're doing less transactions. And if you're doing less transactions, then that means it can be longer. So my giving you 5 Bitcoins, instead of what we get used to these days with, like say like an interact transaction, which can take a couple of seconds, it could take 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour. Who wants to wait an hour for a transaction, like say you're trying to be in a retail situation. What kind of retailer would be like, okay, I'll accept your payment. I know it's going to go through in about an hour. I'm okay with that. You go take your product and leave the store. Nobody would want that. So you've seen that a little bit already.
But this is electronic form on the internet, though.
Right, but most payment machines or merchant services are over the internet. It's not dial-up anymore.
I know, but I don't see how Bitcoin would be used at like a place, like an actual store.
When it becomes more widely accepted, currency is currency. Whether you use Android Pay or Apple Pay, it's still the same thing to people.
Maybe
just another currency
in the future. Perhaps.
Just not paper money.
But I'm just saying, like, isn't that a longevity issue, right? Like, if you can never make it a transactional currency like that, then what's the point if it just becomes an investment vehicle, like somewhere to put your money? But
Big
the point is,
day, maybe have a delay.
People
That's
are buying
it.
stuff online. I mean, that's
They can do it with Bitcoin.
it
just takes an hour.
internationally too.
Sure.
yeah. The miners also get a little reward because they can charge transaction fees to make people cut the line. So if you're waiting in line to get your transaction posted, you can pay a transaction fee to jump ahead. And that's
like
the other way miners make money for doing their work.
Fast pass at Darien Lake.
So
Skip the line.
So miners,
beautiful.
they want coins and they want transaction fees, and they kind of go where the money is. So, if the miners start jumping from Bitcoin to Ethereum, then Bitcoin can do less transactions, and then it becomes a case of, do people get tired of waiting? And if they get tired of waiting, do they put their money take their money out of Bitcoin and put it into something else?
Or does the reverse happen where the miners start charging more, and then the value of the trade or the call or whatever it may be goes up? So $5, no more. Oh, you want to skip the line? You want it done in seconds? $15, please.
Yeah, the commission could go up.
Yeah, sure.
That's a possibility too.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And the thing is it's hard to say what's going to happen, but we do have a bit of a window into it because Bitcoin recently, like at the beginning of August, experienced what was known as a hard fork because Bitcoin was facing a scaling problem of their blocks were only a certain size, like 1 megabyte. So you can fit so many transactions on your block, and then that's it. And then you got to wait for a new block to be discovered and added to the chain to write more transactions. So essentially, there was a limit on how many transactions they could do per second. And the rate was great when Bitcoin was small, but now that Bitcoin's big, suddenly it's bumping its head against the ceiling, and things were getting slow, and then people were getting frustrated. So as a group, they kind of had to decide on a course of action, and they decided to implement a hard fork, which means that they keep all the history of the blockchain, so all the history of all the transactions, but essentially if you take your Bitcoins and convert them into Bitcoin Cash, which you can, it's a one-way street. The only way to get back to original Bitcoin is to sell off all your Bitcoin Cash and then just buy brand new Bitcoins. So it's not like you could just reverse it. It's like
different value.
Yeah. Bitcoin Cash is, I think, the third most valuable cryptocurrency, but it is definitely a lot smaller than its big brother, Bitcoin. But they did notice, even in August, that a large portion of the miners kind of jumped ship and went to Bitcoin Cash. Whether they'll jump back, who knows? But
so if you use the old currency Bitcoin, not enough miners could mean that not enough transactions are getting through. It takes longer.
Yeah, exactly.
Process. So it takes forever.
So then why wouldn't you jump to Bitcoin Cash where all the miners are? Because transactions are faster.
Gotcha. And then the value of the Bitcoin goes down, and then Ethereum takes over, or what have you.
Or Bitcoin Cash takes over.
Sure.
Because Bitcoin Cash has an 8 megabyte size, so they can fit like 8 times the number of transactions, so they can do way more transactions per second.
Right.
So like long term, I would say it's possible that Bitcoin Cash will eclipse Bitcoin just because it's kind of like, old Coke and new Coke, right? It's just like
or Diet Coke.
All that
0 calorie Coke
product you grew to love, but better, and so it's just one of those things that it really depends on the miners and the consumers with their wallets and what happens with how many people move their coins over, and so on and so forth. So it is an interesting social experiment that we'll see kind of bearing out in the next couple of years with how the currency reacts and how Bitcoin changes. But for the most part, until some of these currencies start growing and then dying or changing and whatever, we don't really know what the long-term, health of a cryptocurrency is, other than what we've seen, which is all the cryptocurrencies can have big surges, big drops, go up a couple $100 and then that value just disappears. And
it's like the big stock exchanges now. They'll go up, S&P 500 or whatever it is, they'll go up a couple thousand and then drop by the end of the day. So because they have the big, they have a lot going on, right? They have all these investments built into this big aggregate,
sure,
if you will. But these, I guess the difference is these are just one currency.
Okay,
they're not a big one.
I was going to say, like, the exchange is a little bit too of a complicated model. It'd be better to look at it and compare it to either like a commodity, like the price of oil or the price of gold, or a currency like the Canadian U.S. exchange rate. So, like the Canadian dollar gained 70 cents today against the U.S. Well, imagine it gained like... Sorry, it gained 0.7 of a cent. It didn't gain 70 cents. But but imagine it gained 70 cents in a day. Then suddenly, the exchange doubled, and you're just like, what the heck? And that's...
Inflation and all that comes around, and economic problems, trade issues, the whole bit.
Well, you don't have that worry with a cryptocurrency because it's not integrated with any economy. But the point is your portfolio experienced a really big swing. So if your investments were all in, US dollars, if the Canadian dollar doubled in exchange, then suddenly you're just like, oh crap, my US dollars are worthless. And then if tomorrow Canadian dollar dropped down to 30 cents to US, then you'd be like, yay, my American dollars are worth a lot.
But there's
so it's just like huge swings, right?
There's no money in investing in currencies, though. I mean, really.
Well, if you're doing long term, perhaps with the Bitcoin, you throw in Bitcoin Cash, perhaps you'll get some gains. But with anything that has some risk tolerance to it, then you're going to see huge swings like this throughout the course of weeks and years.
Well, if you want to talk about a swing here, so the Bitcoin Cash price right now is around $580.
Yeah.
I mean, considering the other ones at 5,000.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Say you have 10 Bitcoins and they're worth $5,000 each. If you just did, ignoring the split and the converting your currencies and like everything with the hard fork, if you just like a regular investment sold your 10 Bitcoins, you just made $5,000, you could then buy, $5,000 each, so you made $50,000. So then you could then buy 100 Bitcoin Cash because they're only 500 each. Well, if that 100 Bitcoin Cash, if in a year, 2 years, even 5 years, if they go up to $5,000, then suddenly you've got $500,000 because you know what I mean. So I
think what Chris is trying to do is compare traditional currencies where they move like snails versus cryptocurrency potentially moving like rabbits.
Well, that's why I'm saying maybe a commodity comparison is better because, I mean, in my lifetime, I've seen gold go anywhere from like 1,800 an ounce down to like, I think 400? When I was younger, it was, probably 400-600. So
or even with oil, it's up and down.
Yeah. And your $40 barrels versus, you look back historically in my lifetime and they were like $90 barrels.
Right.
Like
or we have
barrels.
A recent time we've had unfortunate case where there's been refineries shut down and then
the price of gas. Yeah.
Yeah. So that
30-cent swings on
we call them miners, if you will, as an analogy between within the ecosystem, and all of a sudden prices get inflated to the end consumer.
Yeah. So anyways, I'm getting a little long-winded and thirsty here, so I'll just leave people with, so you want to become a millionaire. If it's these cryptocurrencies are mature,
quick scheme. I like
but
it.
you want to get in on it, and you're not content having a wallet. You want to become a miner. How do you do that? Well, the first thing is
Computer?
you decide whether you need hardware, but the first thing before that is just decide, are you going to be a lone wolf? Are you going to be keeping all the gains for yourself? Then you're going to be a solo miner. Otherwise, if you like a little bit more of a shared risk, shared reward, you join a mining pool. And there are some mining pools out there that are like no fee, where basically you don't have to pay anything. But what happens is you contribute your computer and your little miner to the pool, and you get a reward when anyone finds coins in the pool. When anyone adds the blocks and completes the mystery question, then everybody in the pool gets a share. And your share is proportional to the amount of work you did, so the number of hashes you contributed. So, that's one way of, instead of all or nothing, you get a little bit of something. And so that's a there's also
point.
a little bit more
Teamwork.
complicated. There's mining contracts, but that's another thing that's
Different episode.
We'll save that for the advanced class.
Sure.
So you decided whether you wanted to go alone or you wanted to be in a pool. Well, how do you do it? When it first started out, CPU mining was all the rage because the problems weren't as complicated, so the hashes weren't as complex. You could do it with your CPU. Away you go. Unfortunately, that's not going to work anymore, because part of the whole distributed part of the currency is it's kind of based on the computational power of the entire, you could say, mining industry. So basically, as all the other miners have gotten more advanced, because there's a lot more efficiency, there's a lot more power, your little tiny computer just represents a tiny little drop in the ocean. So it's just washed away.
So when Chris brings his Pentium 1 into the mix,
Yeah.
the whole chain is going to fail.
No. It's a case of, because
It's fast.
just think about it. He's contributing so little to the overall industry that he could mine 24/7 for years, and he'd be lucky to ever find a coin.
So his proportion hash that he found will be minuscule, and he'll get like pennies on the dollar, so to speak.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what
Sorry,
people
Chris.
discovered after that was GPUs, because a lot of gaming rigs, the video card makers basically created it so that you could daisy chain a couple video cards together to play the hottest, newest games. Well, that made it really convenient for mining rigs, because you could easily connect a couple of GPUs together, and suddenly that processing power is quite potent for mining. And
Sure.
so that was a huge increase over CPU mining.
Like it.
But then, of course, people keep figuring things out and keep figuring out how to get quicker and quicker.
Squeeze blood from a stone.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they skipped past GPUs quickly, and they went to another stage, which I can never remember, because it was a relatively short stage. But long and short, we're now at what they call the ASIC stage. And that's an application-specific integrated circuit. Essentially, these are special machines that are built for one thing: mining, and mining only. You can't use this to do your kids' homework. You can't use this to play the latest game. What you can do is mine, and mine really fast.
So a super advanced Bitcoin or crypto calculator.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And so
Super simplified, but yeah.
the terminology you need to know is basically these machines are rated in either gigahashes per second, or I think they're even up to terahashes per second. So that's basically millions of hashes that it's able to compute per second.
So when you're talking about 256-bit encryption, what is that in relation to a hash?
Well, see, that's not something directly relatable, because
Can you quantify a hash though?
Well, you think about it like this. Like, they basically, part of the system is that they increase the complexity of the problem so that it can be solved in about the same amount of time, which is about 10 minutes, right? So somebody's solving a hash in about 10 minutes. Now, that's also based on everybody trying to, like, the computational power of everything, right? So it's like
and the traffic and all that.
Yeah, so it's not like I can tell you, if you buy this rig, you will solve this many hashes in this amount of time. I can just tell you that you can throw this much power at it, right?
Gotcha.
And so if you think about it,
More probability.
you've got people that are forming like mining businesses, right? And if you're in a market where electricity is cheap and possibly computer parts are cheap, then you can do this quite effective, and you can be turning a profit. For us, it would probably cost, anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 to buy a really nice ASIC rig. And that's just one machine. And so if you wanted to make a farm, then you would need to buy, as many as you can get your hands on. But at that point, hydro and electricity becomes a problem. And so that's why most machines will have two figures. They'll tell you what their hash rate per second is, but they'll also tell you what their gigahash per watt is. So basically how much power you're going to use to get your computational power. And so that because you don't want to be paying through the nose for hydro.
You
because
don't want the police, the local authorities, to think you're having a grow up because you have a bunch of ASIC machines.
Yeah, exactly, and that's that's the
That's
thing.
not the intent here. Just
No.
electronic currency, officer. I swear.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where some of those smaller currencies don't even become worth your time, because if you're discovering pennies per hour, but you're spending dollars on electricity, that doesn't make any mathematical sense, right? So it's kind of one of those things that the miners, as much as you need a consumer, you also need the miners providing the computational power, the security, recording the transactions, discovering new coins. They're part of the ecosystem. But because mining's become so sophisticated and large, for the most part, it's just like they go where the money is. And so a lot of these tiny currencies, that's your potential for your mom and pop, using your linked together NVIDIA cards and just calling it a day, because you could find some coins, because there's not much computational power in the currency, because there's no money in the currency. So you find some coins, you squirrel them away, and you hope one day that, hey, this is going to be the next big thing.
Yes.
Make it sound so easy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's one of those things where it would probably be on the list of, if I took a time machine back to, even 2007, I would say, hey, check out this cryptocurrency thing. Start mining right away. Ask for an extra video card for Christmas.
On sale. GTX 9000. Oh, your favorite console, the new Project X, the 12 teraflop GPUs. Just rip a whole bunch of those out.
Yeah, there you go.
They're retailing for $5.99 Canadian. A pre-order. Yeah, but I mean that's pretty much a high-end video card, so you might as well get the good stuff out, plus a little bit of extra parts, and you make your arcade consoles.
Slash mining rig.
Yeah. Entertainment for everybody.
Can I play BioShock on that?
Why not?
While mining.
They need more than the Pentium 9 cores with 20 cores, rather.
Oh, 20 core, yeah.
Then a brand new CPU comes out. You get excited, but that's nowhere near what Nathan's talking about. Doesn't even touch it.
Well, but again, these things are like designed for one thing and one thing only, right? So it's not like, whereas a CPU is like the modern brains of a computer and can be used for a variety of tasks, and which is why, there's always those stories of like, hey, we daisy chained a bunch of PlayStations together and built a supercomputer. Well, that's because you needed the ability to do different kinds of computations and actions and things like that. Whereas if all you're going to do is set up a machine that calculates hashes 24/7 to help hopefully get you a currency that, will be something you can retire on, that's why you have these things that are literally just a specialized tool, nothing different than, like those kitchen things that you get, like, you want like a garlic peeler. Well, that's great if you have a lot of garlic to peel, but if you don't, then it's just going to sit there on your shelf and do
set it and forget
nothing.
it. Remember those?
Yeah.
Those are useless things. Never. I think Bronco or whatever his name was back in the 90s had all this useless stuff.
Close enough.
Yeah, it was the 90s.
Yeah.
They were awful. He wore a suit of some sort. Man of Martha Stewart. I don't know. Nonetheless, get rich quick scheme. Not always so easy. I can't even talk. I'm so excited about cryptocurrency. It's going to be a good day. 5,000 US for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Bitcoin Cash 500. And
Approximate.
The rest are somewhere around there. If you're looking to invest, Chris, you thinking that you might kind of toy with this a little bit?
I'm going to get a wallet.
Yeah? Just for the hell of it?
Yeah.
Just trade? We could just trade random currencies and just spend $10 on just trading stuff around and see if it gets enough activity that people get curious, and maybe they'll just kind of land on it. It'll become a popular next big thing. Call it the Nerdy by Nature blockchain, and we'll be set. What do you think, Nathan?
I think that's a terrible idea, but A for effort.
So you're just going to get a mining machine and hope for the best?
No, I think I'm a few $1,000s short and a few years too late to get into the Bitcoin mining game.
I guess I'll leave it with that. You can ponder what you're going to do with the cryptocurrency. Are you going to get in? Are you going to get out? Is this crazy, or is this a beautiful idea? Let us know. Comments below the post, or wherever you want to share your thoughts. Let us get nerdy on social media, as you know, and we'll go from there. And if you want to buy us pennies on the dollar, please do at patreon.com/nerdybynature. Get some cool rewards, help us out, get some studio space that's professional, more so than my kitchen table. So thank you. Have a great weekend, and spend wisely. Take care. Well, like all good things, they must come to an end, my friends. Another show is in the books, and we had so much fun starting the weekend off right, just with you. Nerdy by Nature here with you, discovering the world around us, learning new things, and having a great conversation. Couldn't get to everything, though, in this episode, so please head over to letusgetnerdy.com, check out the show notes, the research, and all the extras. Just couldn't fit in today. While you're there, feel free to subscribe, Android or iOS. It's all good. If you want to say hi, leave a comment below the notes, or click on Contact Us, whichever your heart desires. If you want to get crazy and social and right into it with us, please do. Head over to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, search up Let Us Get Nerdy, won't you? Hashtag, @mention us, say some cool stuff, or call us out. For Nerdy by Nature, thank you so much for listening. Take care.